My name is Michael Johnson. I'm 45 years old, and I've spent the last 20 years climbing the ranks at one of the most competitive tech companies in Silicon Valley. For 2 decades, I dedicated my life to this company. Long hours, missed family dinners, and countless sacrifices. I wasn't just an employee. I was part of the company's backbone, a trusted leader who believed in its vision and fought for its success. But last Thursday, everything changed. I was sitting in my office when my phone buzzed with a message from the CEO. It wasn't the usual update or a quick check-in. This message shook me to my core. He called me replaceable. Those 2 words hit me like a punch to the gut. After 20 years of loyalty, after building teams, leading projects, and pouring my heart into every deadline, he made it clear, in his eyes, I was nothing more than someone who could be swapped out at any moment. The words echoed through the empty room. I sat there stunned, replaying them over and over. I thought about all the early mornings and late nights, the times I covered for others, and the moments I went above and beyond to save the company from disaster. And yet, to him, I was just a disposable asset. But this story isn't just about a broken career or a harsh insult. It's about what happened next, and why the very people who trusted him the most were about to call him in a panic just hours later. Because when the CEO made me feel replaceable, he didn't realize something crucial. I wasn't alone. I had allies. I had proof. And I had a plan. It all started with a gut feeling, something that told me the company was hiding something. For months, I noticed subtle changes, hushed meetings, closed doors, and the way the CEO's phone would light up late at night. It was like he was hiding a secret that could shake everything to its core. I didn't say a word. Not yet. Instead, I watched. And then, one day, that secret blew up, not just for me, but for everyone involved. I'm sharing this story because I want you to know something important. No matter how powerful someone seems, no matter how low they try to push you, there's always a way to fight back. You just have to be ready when the moment comes. And believe me, my moment came faster than I expected. So sit tight, because this isn't just my story. It's a lesson about loyalty, betrayal, and how one man's downfall can spark an entire company's collapse. Welcome to the battle I never saw coming. When I first joined the company, it was just a small startup with big dreams. I was 25 years old, fresh out of college, eager to prove myself. The CEO, David Brooks, was a charismatic leader, the kind of person who made you believe anything was possible. He had a vision that inspired everyone around him, including me. For years, I threw myself into the work. I remember the long nights at the office, the coffee-fueled brainstorms, and the thrill of watching our little team grow into something big. I wasn't just an employee. I became part of the family. We celebrated successes together and pulled through failures shoulder to shoulder. David used to call me his right hand. He trusted me with critical projects and valued my opinions in board meetings. I took pride in being the person who could be counted on when things got tough. My family knew this job was demanding, but they supported me because they believed in the bigger picture. We had a rhythm, a sense of purpose that drove us all. I bought a house nearby to be close to the office. I watched my kids grow up while juggling conference calls and deadlines. I thought I had everything: a stable job, respect for my peers, and a future with the company. But beneath the surface, cracks were starting to show. It began subtly. The CEO's calls became less frequent, and he started holding secret meetings behind closed doors. Rumors of investors pushing for changes floated through the halls. I noticed David growing distant, more guarded. Still, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. After all, business is business, and sometimes leaders have to make tough decisions. I believed in the company's mission and in David's vision. I convinced myself these were just growing pains. But deep down, something didn't sit right. The trust that once felt unbreakable began to waver. One day, I caught a glimpse of an email chain that made my heart skip a beat. There were mentions of restructuring, layoffs, and streamlining leadership. The word replaceable appeared multiple times, though never in reference to me, or so I thought. I kept quiet, fearing the worst but hoping for the best. It wasn't just the company's future at stake. It was my career, my family's security, my identity. For 20 years, I had given my loyalty and my soul to this company. I believed in hard work and integrity. I thought that was enough. But sometimes, loyalty is mistaken for weakness. David's vision started to change, and with it, the man I had once admired. The CEO who once called me his right hand had become a stranger, and that stranger was about to shatter everything I thought I had. After that email, something inside me shifted. I couldn't ignore the signs any longer, but I still didn't want to believe what was happening around me. For weeks, I watched quietly, like a soldier on a covert mission. David's behavior became colder. He stopped inviting me to important meetings. His usual friendly texts were replaced by curt, business-like orders. The atmosphere at the office changed. Whispers in the hallway, quick glances when I entered a room, and the unmistakable feeling that I was no longer part of the inner circle. I started noticing things I hadn't before. His phone was glued to his side, locked with a passcode no one knew. Late-night meetings that lasted for hours, always in private rooms. Emails deleted as soon as they were read. It was like he was building a wall around himself, and I was on the outside. One night, around 2:07 a.m., my phone buzzed with a notification from an anonymous tipster inside the company. They sent me a screenshot, a message from David to an investor that read, "We need to replace Michael quietly before the next funding round." The words burned into my mind. Replace Michael quietly. The betrayal was no longer a distant fear. It was a reality staring me in the face. I didn't respond. I didn't panic. Instead, I sat in the dark, letting the truth settle. I realized I was witnessing the end of something I had spent my entire adult life building. But I also realized this wasn't just about me. It was about a company being steered in a direction that could hurt everyone who believed in it. I began to document everything. Notes, screenshots, dates, conversations, anything that might prove what was really going on behind closed doors. Yet, I still said nothing to anyone. The tension was suffocating, but I needed to be smart. If David knew I suspected him, he'd move faster. Meanwhile, the company's atmosphere grew toxic. Team morale plummeted. People were laid off suddenly. Rumors spread like wildfire. My closest colleagues started avoiding me, afraid to get caught in whatever storm was brewing. I felt isolated, but I refused to show weakness. One afternoon, while walking back from a meeting, I overheard David on a call. His voice was low but filled with urgency. "We can't afford any leaks. Michael is expendable. Get the paperwork ready." Those words hit me like a freight train. Expendable. Replaceable. I clenched my fists but said nothing. I was waiting. Watching. Planning. Because sometimes, the quietest moments carry the heaviest storms. That night, I finally had the undeniable proof. I came home late, exhausted after a day of watching my world unravel. I was scrolling through my phone when a message popped up, an encrypted file from a trusted colleague. I hesitated for a moment before opening it. Inside was a series of emails and financial documents that confirmed everything I feared. David wasn't just planning to replace me quietly. He was siphoning money to offshore accounts, hiding losses, and setting the company up to take a massive hit after the funding round. I sat there frozen. This wasn't just betrayal, it was criminal. But what hit me the hardest was the realization that all those years of hard work, loyalty, and sacrifice meant nothing to him. I wasn't just replaceable, I was a pawn in a bigger game. I didn't cry that night. I didn't scream or rage. I started planning. For years, I had been trained to analyze, strategize, and execute. The same skills that had made me a successful leader were now going to be my weapons. I knew the stakes were high. Exposing David would rock the company, the investors, and potentially ruin careers, including my own. But I also knew that if I didn't act, everything I cared about would be lost. So, with a calm I didn't know I had, I began mapping out my moves. I reached out discreetly to a lawyer I trusted, gathering advice on how to protect myself and the evidence. I backed up every file, recorded every conversation I could, and kept my circle small. This was no longer about loyalty. This was about justice. And I was ready to fight. Once I decided to fight back, everything changed, but not in the way you might think. There was no dramatic outburst, no confrontation. Instead, I moved like a shadow, careful and deliberate. The first step was to secure all the proof I had. Every suspicious email, every financial irregularity, every secret meeting note, I copied, cataloged, and encrypted it. I knew I needed airtight evidence to stand a chance against David and his powerful allies. Next, I reached out to a trusted attorney who specialized in corporate fraud. I explained the situation without revealing too much at once. Together, we developed a plan that would protect my job, my reputation, and my family. In the background, I started quietly informing a few board members who I knew had no allegiance to David. They were shocked but receptive. The seed of doubt was planted. Meanwhile, David remained unaware. He continued to act as if everything was normal. His arrogance was his weakness. At work, I kept my head down. I didn't let anyone see that I was preparing for battle. I attended meetings, answered emails, and pretended to focus on my daily tasks. But behind the scenes, I was building my case. The tension was palpable. I could feel it in every glance, every hushed conversation. The company was on edge, like a powder keg waiting to explode. My family noticed the change too. I was quieter, more distant. But I couldn't share the burden with them, not yet. Every day, I reminded myself, patience, precision, persistence. I wasn't just fighting for my job. I was fighting for the truth. And when the time came, David wouldn't know what hit him. The day everything changed arrived without warning, yet it felt like the culmination of years of silent preparation. I entered the boardroom, calm but determined. The usual tension was thick, but this time, I held the upper hand. David was there, smug as ever, convinced he was untouchable. I cleared my throat and addressed the room. "I have something you all need to see." I connected my laptop to the screen and played the recordings, emails detailing embezzlement, messages proving plans to replace me quietly, and financial reports manipulated to hide losses. The room fell silent. David's confident facade began to crack. I watched as disbelief spread across his face, then fear. When the last clip ended, the board members exchanged glances. Whispers broke out. No one spoke, except me. "This is why I was called Replaceable. But I'm here to show you the truth. The investors who had been in contact with David hours earlier had already been informed quietly by my legal team. By the time David realized what was happening, his calls were going unanswered. Security escorted him out, while the board moved swiftly to stabilize the company. There was no shouting, no drama, just cold, undeniable facts. Justice wasn't served in the heat of anger, it was served in the clarity of truth. Weeks have passed since David was removed from the company. The dust is settling, but the scars remain. I won't lie, it hurt. Not just the betrayal, but the sense of loss for the life I thought I had built. Yet, through the pain, I found clarity. I realized that no one is truly replaceable, except if you let them make you feel that way. I rebuilt trust with the team, focusing on transparency and shared vision. Investors regained confidence, and slowly, the company began to heal. But more importantly, I rebuilt myself. This experience taught me that strength isn't just about fighting back. It's about knowing when to stand firm and when to let go. She took everything she could, but not my soul. And from those ashes, I rebuilt a new life, not for revenge, but for me. To anyone watching, remember, no matter how deep the betrayal, your spirit is yours alone. Hold on to that. Fight for that. Because in the end, that's what truly matters.